Morning, everybody.
Morning.
This is a Board of Trustees meeting. It's the regular meeting. Today's date is July 13th, 2021. It is 9 a.m. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Vorderer.
Here.
Trustee Olenichek.
Here.
Trustee Desmond.
Here.
Trustee Phelan.
Here.
Trustee Pembroke.
Here.
Trustee Mallow.
Here.
Trustee Stalker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Veterans, please salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I understand we do have some public comments. If you would step up to the podium here, give your name, and are you an Oak Lawn resident?
Good morning. My name is Chuck Davis. I am not a resident, but I do contracting work in the village of Oak Lawn, and I'm here to address a situation that I just want to get some answers on. First of all, good morning. Thank you for letting me address the Board of Trustees. My name is Chuck Davis, along with my brother Chris Davis, own Davis Concrete Construction and Silvestri Paving Company. We have worked for the village of Oak Lawn as a contractor for various streets and sidewalk jobs since 19. On June 2nd, 2021, we submitted a bid for the Oak Lawn 50/50 sidewalk project. We were read as low bidder at a price of $24,360. We contacted Chris Burke's office, and they responded that we were the low bid and they recommended us to do the job. Approximately 2 weeks ago, we were informed by our bidding service that the bid for that contract was awarded to J.J. Newell Concrete Construction Company for a price 41% higher than our bid. We immediately called Chris Burke and asked them if they knew why we were not given the contract. Chris Burke responded they had no idea why we were not awarded the job. We have placed several phone calls into the Public Works Director and emails to Jeff Seebeck and Bill Meyer, the Assistant Public Works Director, with no response. We obtained the village board agenda for the June 8th meeting and observed that the vote was placed and required a 2/3 majority to waive the bidding requirements to award the job to someone other than the low bid. My question to the board is why wasn't Davis Concrete awarded the project as the low bidder?
This is just public comments. It doesn't require answers from the board. If you want to circle back with Mr. Seebeck, I'm sure we'd be happy to get you an answer. We're not going to get into any legal disputes about what was required by 2/3 votes or not. I would dispute that as the village's legal counsel, that the proper bidding was followed. So with that, I don't know if anybody else has any comments, but I think on behalf of the board, this is not a question and answer session.
No, I understand that, but my real question is that the people here that voted, it was 6-0 vote unanimous to award the contract to J.J. Newell. They have to have some information on this other than calling Jeff Seebeck to the podium to talk. And that's really the purpose of my visit here, is to find out. We have over a 55-year relationship with Oak Lawn, going back 5 or 6 mayors, and we think that we deserve an answer, and I think that there are some people that can comment on this today, and we'd like to have that. The cost to the village and to the taxpayers is roughly $58 per square more if they give it the contract to Jerry Newell and not award it to us. That's $58 per square to the village and to the homeowner.
I'm sorry, but the 3 minutes is up.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Again, you'll have to inquire with our Public Works Director on the recommendations given to this board on why this bid was awarded as it was. And thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
If you want to wait till the end of the meeting, he's right over there, you can talk to him.
To who?
Jeff Seebeck.
Seebeck.
Oh, is he here right now?
Yes.
Yes, I can meet you after the meeting. I will stick around then and wait. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 4 on the agenda is, another, okay, please, I'm sorry. And you're Chris?
Yes. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning,
Yes.
trustees.
You're,
Thank you for listening to me, too. The reason that I wanted to speak, as well as my brother, is to let you guys know that I run the field. I'm the quality control for Davis Concrete. And I wanted the village to know, everyone here, that we have done $2.6 million worth of work in Oak Lawn in the last 4 years, between the 50/50 program and as a subcontractor for the paving program every year, Lindahl and K5. So, again, we will get our, we will talk to Jeff and ask what happened, but I would like the trustees and the mayor to know that whatever the issues are, we have done $2.6 million worth of work with, as far as we know, no issues whatsoever in 4 years. So I just wanted to make sure that that was on the record.
Thank you, sir. And again, Chris, our Jeff Seebeck will answer your questions, hopefully satisfactorily. And Jeff, I'd like a report to the board too, on how this came about and what recommendations that took place, okay? Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
Okay.
trustee.
All right, number 4, conflict of interest disclosure. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on this agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to number 5, the approval of the regular meeting minutes of 2021-11 dated June 8th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
That was by Paul. Paul Mallow, second.
I'll second.
Second by Jamie Pembroke. Roll call, please.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Phelan.
Yes.
Trustee Pembroke.
Yes.
Trustee Mallow.
Yes.
Trustee Stalker.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion's approved. 6, new business by village trustees. We'll start in District 1.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one item, and it's mostly got to do with public works and residents calling, looking for service. The best way for us to help you is to get an email. Now, I know it's easier to pick up the phone and call, but, if we're driving, we can't answer the phone, like most people anymore. We're inundated with calls looking for, warranty service, all kinds of telemarketing, and I normally don't even answer my cell phone unless I know who's calling, who the number is from. Also, if you email, you can give us your name, address, exactly what the problem is. We can forward that to staff. And include you in any emails back and forth. It just makes things a lot easier for everybody if we have the message and we can forward it right to whoever needs to get it. That's all I have.
Thank you. District 2?
I just want to thank the staff and the committee that put on the parade for the 4th of July. It was a wonderful time. I know there's a lot of work put into it, new path, new day going. It was great to see so many residents out and about and enjoying the 4th of July. So nice job. Thank you for leading the committee on that. And I know that there were many people that made that happen. So staff, I just want to say it was a great time and thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alex. District 3?
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to thank Dia Daziak and Bill Meyer for that parade. Without them, it wouldn't have run as smoothly as it did. There's a lot of work that goes in the background that residents don't see, but I think it worked out very well. On another note, the concert from last Sunday was canceled due to the rain. We did reschedule the Teen Talent Showcase for this coming Sunday. It will start at 7 p.m. as typical for our Sunday concerts. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Paul. District 4?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do want to also echo Trustee Mallow, Trustee Oliniechek's comments on the parade and the Independence Day celebration. It was great. It was fabulous to participate in, and I appreciate all the hard work the staff did to make that such a great opportunity. So, thank you.
Thank you, James. District 5? Bud?
Yeah, I hesitate to say this, but with all the good news we've had from the board, I have noticed, at least in my district, a significant increase in rodent population in the district. We have retained the services of a new exterminator. There's a cooperative agreement with that exterminator to help citizens get control on this situation. But what I ask you to do is please close your garbage can lids. Put all the garbage in the cans or containers. And pick up after your dogs. That does bring rodents into the area, and I appreciate your help. You're the folks that can do it, and we'll cooperate and support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bud. Great message. District 6.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo the other comments about the 4th of July celebration. We brought the parade back in 2006 on hiatus for a number of years and really haven't made any changes since that time. And I think kudos to Trustee Mallow for thinking we could do bigger, better, and in fact, he proved that was the case. I know he had a lot of help with the committee, with Deanne, with Bill Meyer, the rest of Public Works, Police, and Fire, but it went off without a hitch. We had a lot of participation, and hopefully it'll be something that'll grow in the future, but it was a great day, and just wanted to thank you personally. That's it.
Thank you, trustee. All right, the village manager's report. A is the Southwest Highway Corridor Report and Presentation. This was a 2-year study, am I correct? A 2-year study here, and finally a presentation on how we can improve that corridor. Randy?
Yes, Mayor and Board. As everybody knows, we've been working on this for quite a while. Tesca Associates has been working with our village planner and Kevin McGinnis on this program. We've had a lot of input from residents. We've had input from some of the trustees. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin McGinnis and let him give the intro to Tesca, but I think he's got a couple comments to say too.
Good morning. So we are here today to present the final report for the Southwest Highway Corridor Study. It's been done over, I would say, since September of last year, so just about a year, I'd say. So the study was funded through the Cook County's Department of Transportation and Highways Invest in Cook program and the Village of Oak Lawn. So today I'd like to introduce our planning consultant team. They've been working on the study, as I mentioned. So first we have Jody Mariano with Tesca Associates. We also have Justin Opitz and Bill Grieve with Walt Hamilton Associates and Bridget Lane with Business Districts, Inc. Together, they've created a detailed plan that will aid Oak Lawn in developing Southwest Highway in a more walkable, bikeable, and economically diverse corridor. I want to thank our steering committee members, stakeholders, and residents. Without all of them, the planning process would be, it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be the way it is. So this morning, the board will be voting on a resolution approving the final draft of the Southwest Highway Corridor Plan. This will give way to the implementation, as you'll see, I think, in the presentation, the next steps. So engineering, phase 1 engineering, phase 2 engineering, and then ultimately into construction. So right now, I'll turn it over to Jody for a presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us this morning to speak with you. I'm just going to turn on my computer and hope that it magically makes the screen go down. It does. How about that? Wonderful. Well, and I hope that everybody had a chance to glance through this report, which I believe was forwarded to everyone. As you heard earlier, this is a very collaborative effort that our team worked with staff and our committee and the community since September. And so we're today going to be showing you highlights of the whole thing. Our whole team is here, so we're happy to answer any questions or comments you have after this presentation. So today we're going to talk a little bit about our team and the scope, a little bit about what we heard from the community outreach program, some key plan recommendations for Southwest Highway, and then maybe most importantly, implementation, how to get this done. This is a very long-range thinking plan, and so we've broken it up into implementation steps to help the village move forward. And then again, any questions and comments, we're happy to address. So this corridor is looking at Southwest Highway between Ridgeland Avenue north up to 93rd Street. The corridor is looking at the areas within the public rights-of-way, so the streets, the sidewalks, the green spaces in between them. Also, we're looking at the private developments that abut the street. We're not making any recommendations about acquiring or modifying any private developments, but Bridget Lane with Business Districts, Inc. was responsible for helping us think through the market and what the future economic forecast could be for Southwest Highway. Bill and Justin with Gowalt Hamilton Associates are our transportation planners and have been helping us think through not only how autos use the corridor, but also buses and walkers and bikers, families and elderly. So to make sure that this corridor is really comfortable for everybody that lives nearby and wants to use the corridor. I'm a landscape architect, and so I've been leading this and also thinking through the urban design and what this place could look like. And I'll say what we've heard from the community, almost 100%, is that people really want to see this become a special place for Oak Lawn. So something that's more walkable, more bikeable, more comfortable. So with that, as Kevin mentioned, this is funded by an Invest in Cook grant from Cook County. The goals are to make it more comfortable for walkers and bikers, as I mentioned, and to identify the economic development opportunities and to make this feel more like a special corridor for the village. Some key themes that you'll hear is we want to make sure that the existing businesses on the corridor today are supported and are able to continue to do good business. We also want to attract new businesses. We want to make it safe and comfortable for people to use the corridor. We want it to be beautiful and compelling so that people will want to come visit and stay in Oak Lawn. It is a gateway into the community. We've learned a lot about how people use Southwest Highway. It is a shortcut from Orland Park all the way up to Midway, as you know. And so how can we make this feel like a sense of arrival for Oak Lawn and get people to stop and shop and dine? And then Justin and Bill will talk about it being a more complete street that makes walkers, bikers, and motorists feel more comfortable. This team has been fortunate to work with Oak Lawn over the years on a couple of other similar corridor plans. We were the ones that worked on the 95th Street corridor in 2014 and also the Ridgeland Avenue corridor shortly thereafter, which included multiple communities. Oak Lawn also has a bike plan and a comprehensive plan that dates back to 97, and so we use those materials as we pulled this information together. We had a wonderful committee made up of folks that are here tonight. Thank you to Trustee Mallow for being part of the committee. We also had former Mayor Dr. Sandy Burry, who was in the committee. We had business owners and residents, folks that are really passionate about the future of Southwest Highway. This was a very collaborative effort, as I mentioned, starting back in September. And of course, this was during sort of the height of the pandemic. So we were doing these things socially distant with masks when we were at your farmer's market. And we had a lot of people come to visit us at the farmer's market. We also participated in other activities via Zoom. So the public activities are in green. So as I mentioned, the farmer's market was in October of last year. We had a public open house in March of this year, and that was at the Oak Lawn High School. Today we're, of course, meeting with you all. With the public, we also had 2 community polls, and these were web-based surveys that each had about 500 participants each. And during each of those polls, people not only answered our questions, but provided all of their own unique comments. So we were able to really understand what was important to folks as we were going through this study. We met with the committee, those dates are in red, 4 different times, and the committee really acted as our guide to review materials that we were putting together and help shape this plan. Some key takeaways, we heard a lot, of course, but this is Justin talking with some interested residents at the farmer's market. But the key takeaways, for sure, there's existing great businesses. We want to make sure they feel supported. We also want to attract new. We want this to be very safe, not only for cars, but also for walkers and bikers. And that ties into calming the traffic. The traffic speeds down there pretty quickly today, as many of you know. So we want to try and come up with ways to keep traffic moving efficiently, but also calm it down so that when somebody wants to walk across the street or along the street, they feel safe too. Oaklawn High School is right there. Many kids are walking and biking to get to school from the neighborhoods. We want to make it safer for them. We want to make it more beautiful, improve appearances. That is as much about landscaping as it is about improving facades to businesses and attracting new businesses with attractive site plans and facade treatments. More parking. We heard a lot about a need for more parking. That's one of the key takeaways. And then lastly, adding greenery and public art. Something that's really interesting about Southwest Highway that is unique compared to most corridors is that it runs on an angle. So we have all of these great opportunities for these, end caps and corners where we could add public art because there really isn't place for anything else. Parking won't fit in those spaces. Buildings won't fit in those spaces. So this could be an opportunity for something like that. We've included some quotes here. I'm not going to read them all, but you're welcome to, of course, read through all of the polls. The appendix of the report has all of the quotes, but people were very energized about improving the corridor here. The strategies are listed here. So from a market standpoint, and Bridget is going to speak to this, it's about making it easier for people to see where they're going and to physically get there, and making it more attractive. Encouraging entrepreneurship and renovations so that the existing buildings could have new tenants, and then removing barriers to development. Today, the parking requirements, for instance, are very strict. Things like looking at parking requirements in the code could help improve access to development. From a transportation side, it's making it easier to get to schools and making the crossings easier to navigate, calming the traffic and making it easier for people to walk and bike across. And then something that you're going to hear about is a road diet. A road diet, and Justin and Bill will speak to this, but a road diet is to reallocate travel lanes to pedestrian ways and bikeways. And Justin will speak to that a little bit, but it is a bold recommendation, and so rather than start to build those things right away, we're recommending testing that with paint. And Justin will speak more to that. From a design strategy standpoint, improving the experience using streetscape materials and public art, making everything look a little bit more attractive from a landscape and an architectural standpoint, and then identifying opportunities for celebration of arts and culture. As you know, there's already some really wonderful things happening through town, and we want to continue to promote that. I am going to turn it to Bridget to speak to the market analysis.
Sorry, before you go, I just have one question. And every one of these we see, it's always recommended as wider sidewalks. How can you make the sidewalk wider? I mean, do you move the building back? Do you go into the street?
Right, and so we'll show what the way that we would make the sidewalks wider in this case. And I'm
So sorry, is this further on in your?
It is, and I'll
Okay,
steal
sorry.
Justin's thunder, but right now we have 5 lanes of traffic.
Right.
We think that we only need 3. And so that reallocation of that outside lane could go towards more
Okay.
landscaping.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you.
That's okay, it's a good question. All right.
Hi, thank you. And I'd like to go through this sort of quickly because one of the points I tried to make about economic development, and Oak Lawn should step back and feel proud of its economy. You have a diverse economy, a very successful economy. And so, in my opinion, in this report, the economy isn't the issue. You have so many choices here, that's the issue. So a lot of the design and transportation is going to drive this. But as Jody mentioned, this is a pandemic, and those of you that are involved in the real estate market know that there's just a great deal of uncertainty right now. No one's really confident of exactly where we're going. So I just like to bring that up and talk a little bit about some of the hypotheses that I think are getting stronger and stronger. The first is there is an accelerating trend toward internet purchasing, and believe it or not, this is a great location for an internet business. You can reach over 3 million people within a 30-minute drive, and there are 883,000 jobs within a 30-minute drive of this location. So it makes it really a good place. You've probably heard young families are moving to single-family homes in the suburbs. There was this push towards the city, but you guys are very well positioned for that. There's an increasing, as Jody mentioned, appreciation of outdoor space. Many, many communities continue to leave parking spaces for dining and things like that today because increasingly people came to really like using outdoor space. Tenants commercial tenants are seeking single-user controlled commercial space. What does that mean? Well, during the pandemic, one of the problems businesses had is when they had shared entrances and you didn't know who was there. So the kind of places that are existing here with, we think, some enhancement, facade enhancement design, are really great commercial locations for businesses. And there are new delivery formats. At one point in time, we think there is an opportunity here for quick service businesses, whether they're independent or national chains. And what you're finding is that they no longer use menu boards and those large, it's a whole different configuration. Businesses like Chipotle all their new stores have no menu boards. You're expected to use an app on your phone, and that's how you drive through. And other businesses have walk-up booths, things like that. So those are kind of a hint of where we think we're going. This kind of was what I said. The current market, in the quotes, everybody said, who said that? I said that. The current market that Oak Lawn Southwest Highway Corridor business serves is strong and therefore doesn't limit the investment choices for property owners. That's something that's good, but at the same time, it's hard when you're directing some of what we're going to talk about in this project for design and transportation choices. I've already mentioned the strong access to this 30-minute drive time, which is a destination market that many businesses use. And that's why you find things on the market now, like dentists and doctors, that people will drive to. And the ability to recruit and attract restaurants with local population and employees is also very strong. There are within 5 minutes, it varies from about, if you drop a dot on the main intersections here, it varies from about 22,000 to over 30,000 people within just a 5-minute drive. So that's very quick, or that's a 10-minute bicycle. So that's why I believe that you have so many choices here, and you have an exciting opportunity to really look at what the public is interested in here. And it's also a great residential location. I mentioned the 883,000 jobs within 30 minutes, which is the typical drive time in the Chicago market for a job. Plus, the houses are of a size and an age that allows for home offices, things like that, and they're more affordable than a lot of places. In terms of some of the guidance that I gave as we started to look at development, it's to understand that residential is renters by choice. A lot of times there's a feeling that rent is a lower category of resident, but today what's happened is, and some of you, if you're the age I am and you have kids, I owned a house. My kids are still renting at the age they are, and it's really where the world is going, and we're finding that the flexibility of renting, and my kids invest in the stock market instead of a house, and I think they're probably doing a little better than bought houses. And what happens is a lot of times people go for condos, and I wrote this before, and I don't want to bring up something really negative, but before what happened at Surfside, you're going to find that condos as shadow rentals over the next 5 to 10 years are going to continue to be a problem. What I mean by a shadow rental is if someone has a condo and they, instead of selling it, rent it out, you don't have the kind of control over some of the issues like maintenance and things like that. So you prefer a managed rental property to condos in many cases. Parking standards, Jody just briefly mentioned parking, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, with some transportation experts, but 1.5 spaces per unit is good. A lot of communities have started with much higher numbers than that, because who ends up in the residential rental? What are called transitioning families. They could be undergoing a divorce, or kids moving from to people that have houses in Florida or Arizona. Medical employees are very important in Oak Lawn. They have odd hours that mean that they really need to have cars to get back and forth to work. And through the unit mix, you can kind of manage that. So commercial, I've already mentioned, so I'm going to go through it quickly. Private entrances are key. Pedestrian amenities are key to attracting coffee shops and restaurants, and they are associated with having plenty of employees. The best environment has a daytime population of employees as well as the residents heading off to work in the morning and coming to a coffee shop later. It's important to understand that occupied properties are really expensive to redevelop. Plus, once they redevelop, because of that, they have very high rents. So one of the reasons if you want entrepreneurs that you need to reuse existing properties is they could save on the cost of their location. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about drive-through. And what to remember about drive-through is it creates sales tax rather than property tax. So it's important to a village because the property tax basically goes to schools and things like that. And Jody, I hope you'll join me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jody, why don't you just lean in, see if
Yeah.
if you have any questions.
Sure. So these couple of slides, we were looking at not only enhancing existing properties, but how we could help the village plan for new development. And so, as I mentioned earlier, Southwest Highway runs on an angle, and it leaves us with these big challenges with these triangular shaped parcels. This is not a particular parcel. This is just a typology that we call it. So what we did was we wanted to test it and look at a couple of different building and parking configurations based on some different code requirements. So based on the existing code and the parking requirement that is in place today, we could fit this type of 4-story mixed-use development on this sample triangular parcel. And it would allow us for 5,000 square feet of commercial and a second through fourth floor of residential units above, and parking in the back. Bridget can speak to this, but it is very, very expensive to build structured parking. So we know that based on the economics of it all, if we can build surface parking, then we can make for a easier development. So that is based on the village's code. If we relax the parking ratios, then we could get a lot more building development. And so in this case, all of the parking is again on grade, but it's sitting right at the first floor on grade beneath a building that would be up on stilts above. So everything that's in green that says rooftop terrace would be residential units. And then we'd have commercial property up against the street to present a nice look to the street. And the purpose in doing this study is just to demonstrate that if the parking regulations are relaxed, we could get a lot more development out of it. And to Bridget's point earlier, so many more people these days are not relying on cars as much as they used to. We're close by to the Chicago Ridge Metro Station and the Oak Lawn Metro Station. So we could consider relaxed parking ratios for our development. These little triangular pieces up at the ends that we can't do anything else with, those are our opportunities for sculpture or seating areas or nice landscaping, just to help give this a unique appearance. We also did test 1/3 opportunity, which is a drive-through business. And so, I know a lot of people will think, oh, drive-throughs, they don't look so nice. There are ways to design them so that they do look nice, and we wanted to present that as an option. Simple things like, setting the buildings, a consistent setting away from the back, creating a parking lot that's not filled with so many cars up against the street, but pushing more parking to the side. And then, of course, adding nice landscaping, adding very clear pedestrian walkways from the sidewalk into the development. These are all the things that kind of work together to make this present as a nice development. Is there anything you want to add, Bridget?
Just to add, one of the things that I want to remind folks is most of these may require a public-private partnership, because if there is existing rented occupied space there, first of all, you want to preserve a lot of those businesses, and this isn't the village coming in to do any of this, but the buildings have a very high value now because of the quality of the market here. So there would require some partnership, whether it's relocating or doing other things to make these happen. They aren't market-driven is the point I would say.
So some sample developments, we have been looking at commercial on the first floor and 3 stories of residential above. And so these are some samples of other buildings that are of that scale on relatively smaller lots. Oak Lawn should aim for very high standards because this is a very attractive street. As far as renovating existing businesses, we especially have an interesting stretch in the middle of Southwest Highway between Melvina and Meade. And it is areas where the buildings are very close to the street, you might recall. There's also on-street parking. It feels like sort of a little walkable downtown area. And we're very excited about this. And some people that we spoke with during our stakeholder interviews were equally excited because The building's already there. It doesn't cost a lot to do facade enhancements, and so this could be just this really precious little walkable core. This is an example of another strip center that's been enhanced with paint and facade and signage. Again, doesn't take a lot of money to create something very special. I do want to point out the image at the bottom left is an example from another community that has a pedestrian alley, and an entrepreneur found an 85 square foot room closet that he converted into a coffee shop. No space for seating or anything in there, but all the seating happens up on the street side, on the alleyway. This is in Lake Bluff, if anyone wants to visit it. But it's a good example about how some creativity in the way the business model runs, and also where you can put your pedestrian seating with landscaping and other attractive features can be a real amenity.
Just, this is an example where it could be market-driven because you're reusing the existing building. Oh, boy, you're challenging my eyesight here. Oh, okay. Yeah, one of the public inputs was this interest in a space for entrepreneurial businesses. And a lot of times, like I said before, I have to say no to communities on this, but the strength of the walkable neighborhoods and the fact that you have this bonus of people driving by make this a great opportunity for entrepreneurial businesses. And attracting those businesses, really working with your local resources. They're kind of labeled here. I don't need to go through all of them. And as Jody said, I have found that when I work with entrepreneurs, they aren't intentionally doing an unattractive facade. They just have no idea what a nice facade is. And so the key to getting the results that Jody showed you is investing a little bit in some architectural help and other design guidelines. And I wanted to just highlight that sometimes I think medical offices aren't recognized for their ability to provide employees who make the businesses successful at lunchtime. And so I think there is an opportunity for some medical office, but again, it's a choice that you can make. And then retaining existing businesses, we had great representation on the committee from existing businesses, but I think it's worthwhile to try and schedule meetings with anyone to talk about this market, and especially to remind the existing businesses of how strong the market is. They could do some more business. So in the midterm, I think there is an opportunity for nearby residential populations. And as I said, coming out of the pandemic, we think you have a very attractive market for young families. And a lot of those are going to be multi-generational opportunities. They may live with parents, or they may be recent college grad kids living in the household. So this ability to look at some of the houses for multi-group is important. And then we've already talked about, in the midterm, you may find these new businesses that don't require the large menu boards. And then in the long term, there's an opportunity for community branding here. So.
Okay, so moving away from economic development and moving towards transportation and streetscape. So we already talked about the private side. Now we're going to focus on the public side, which makes up the rest of the report. Justin, do you want to speak to the traffic counts and such?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Justin, Bill, my colleague with GHA, we're traffic planners, traffic engineers. So before we kind of embarked on thinking of recommendations for this study, we wanted to get a sense of, what are the existing conditions of Southwest Highway? What is the amount of traffic that's out there currently, historically, how many cars have been moving on this roadway? So, we conducted a 24-hour traffic count in November that was during kind of the height of the pandemic here. So what we wanted to do was kind of compare that count to the historical average daily traffic that's been moving along Southwest Highway. So on any given day, you have about 25,000 vehicles moving up along the corridor. During the pandemic, we counted that. It was down about 20%. So we saw around 20,000 vehicles moving along the roadway. I will say, recently, as we've started to kind of open things back up, we're really seeing kind of, a return to normal traffic volumes, but it's not exactly as it was before. Some things during the AM peak hour are a little bit lower than they were before, and some things during the afternoon are a little bit higher. We're seeing more people work from home and do more errands as they're at their house in the afternoon. So, as I move forward here, just keep that in mind. This 20,000 vehicles a day, that is, when I get into the road diet explanation, on the upper threshold of where we would consider doing this. So as Jody was mentioning, as we move forward here and think about these recommendations, we kind of have a tiered approach or a testing approach where we're looking at this, spending a lower amount of money on the front end to kind of see how things work, test the community appetite for how things are changing, and then move into kind of some of these higher dollar improvements that would kind of really bolster this economic and urban design things that Jody and Bridget have been talking about. So some of the main goals and some of the things we heard through outreach from the transportation and streetscape sections here is that, people feel that there's speeding traffic along Southwest Highway. It's not very safe to cross the roadway. The roadway is pretty wide as it is right now. There's 2 lanes in each direction with left turns in the middle of those. So some of these main goals that we're trying to accomplish here are to calm the traffic, which means to slow people down, and then to kind of foster this sense of place. And as you slow people down, they'll be looking at the businesses. As we see in these pictures here, there's some kind of painted bump outs. What that does is, it provides an opportunity for some public art on the pavement, as well as decreases the curb radii at turns, which means that, as pedestrians are crossing these intersections, they don't have to walk as far. So for somebody who, might walk a little bit slower, is in a wheelchair, it's much safer for them. And then also it slows down the cars as they're turning. So, if somebody's driving on Southwest Highway and going 30, 35, 40 miles per hour, if they have to turn off the highway, a lower curb radii means they have to slow down more than they would originally. So as I said before, we kind of approach this in a tiered way to think of this in a low change and a high change kind of approach. So as we were talking about this and thinking of this 20,000 cars a day, that is on the upper threshold of where it would be acceptable to consider a road diet. So as Bill and I were thinking about this, we were like, it wouldn't be, responsible for us or to consider saying, hey, we're going to throw our, all our ducks in this bucket and say, let's spend all this money and do a road diet without seeing, how this would kind of function. So basically, the low roadway change would be done first, and what this is essentially testing, removing the outside lanes, the outside through travel lanes on Southwest Highway between Meade and Melvina. That's that urban core that Jody was kind of talking about, and this would be done, simply through restriping the current striping that's out there. So this is a low cost upfront thing that could be done by the village. Southwest Highway is under the jurisdiction of Oak Lawn in this area, so it wouldn't require any coordination with IDOT or Cook County. So basically, what we're trying to see here is say, if we were to remove these outside lanes, let's test this for about a period of a year long, see how things go. We did some surveys to gather feedback from the community during this planning process. The village could do something similar after this low change test was implemented, and kind of see how people are, liking the change. If they think there's too much traffic, then there has been scenarios where Bill has tested this in the past, and the village decides not to proceed with this, and then the focus would be shifting more towards some of the economic things that Bridget was talking about with, higher capacity restaurant drive-through type uses. So, if this road diet test is successful, people, start to like what they're seeing. Traffic is slowing down. You see more people out on the street walking around. This is where we move into the kind of high roadway change, the true road diet, where you're actually reconstructing curbs, reallocating some of these traffic spaces for amenities that were heavily requested during the outreach process. We had a ton of people saying they wanted wider sidewalks, they wanted bike trails, they want landscaping, they want more street trees, just some of these pedestrian amenities that kind of buffer them from the street and make them feel safer while they're walking around. And then I think I'll pass it over to Jody to talk a little bit about the urbanism.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe just to kind of reiterate, so I think you guys all heard this, but Southwest Highway is controlled by the village. 95th Street, of course, is controlled by IDOT, and Ridgeland Avenue is controlled by the county. So we did meet with those agencies to understand the types of improvements that we can make. And the road diet scenario that you're hearing Justin talk about would only happen between Austin and the street just north of Ridgeland.
99.
Thank you, 99th. Because we need to make those tapers back to make those existing intersections function just as they're functioning today. So outside of the IDOT jurisdiction and also outside of the Cook County jurisdiction, we have that ability within the village to down the roadway in between 99th and Austin. So what we wanted to do is, rather than show you a bunch of plans and section drawings, which you can find in the report, we want to take a couple snapshots of the roadway and show you some renderings. So this is this section between Melvina and Mead, where the buildings are close to the street. Dr. Marshall's office is here. Pucci Barber is here. You're probably very familiar. We've got on-street parking on one side of the road. Right here, I'm looking at the space between the two buildings is where that public right-of-way is a parking lot. One of the things that we heard from the community, in addition to everything else that they've told us, is that they would also like a space to have small fests and events. So maybe a small food fest or a small artisan-type fest could happen in a parking lot like this. So keep those things in mind, and also keeping in mind the economic development things that, that Bridget talked about. This is an existing photograph, of course, and so the low concept, which would be just testing this road diet idea with paint. There's a lot going on. So starting with the buildings could have improved facades with signage and lighting and paint, just as we talked about earlier. In that space in the 98th Street, I can do it here. Here in this space where the parking lot is today, that could be treated with overhead festoon lights, access to power, decorative pavement that could allow it to function as a parking lot, 360 days of the year, and maybe the 5 days of the year that there is a special event, could have a special type of an event for the businesses. We also have on-street parking here, and so creating things like bump outs where we can have more spaces for outdoor dining. If these businesses were to be populated with food and beverage type businesses, that could happen on the sidewalk side. The other thing that we had heard, as you remember earlier, is a desire for more parking. So in this road diet test, we are taking the 4 travel lanes and reducing it to 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction, plus the turn lane in the center. The outside lane then becomes, on this other side of the street, becomes on-street parking. And then we have space for, of course, our parkway and our sidewalks. So this would be the road diet test. If this were to be successful, this is the low concept, then the high concept would show it fully built out with full curb and gutter, and then we would have our bike lane on this opposite side of the street, on the west side of the street. So on-street parking is provided, bike lane is provided, we've got space for plantings, and then our sidewalk would be just off of the screen here. Likewise, on this side where we've got business frontages, we'd have a wider sidewalk, our on-street parking lanes, and then our landscaping at the curbs. I'm going to take a pause to ask if there's any questions, because I know I just mentioned a lot of things, and you asked Trustee Desmond about wider sidewalks earlier.
Yeah, and that looks fantastic. But did we just lose a lane between this one and the last one?
You didn't lose a lane. We just took the on-street parking lane and moved it.
Yeah, and basically, so the middle section here, the middle of the street, what I'm showing here on this low concept, the first one, is just maintaining those turn lanes in the middle. So we wouldn't be touching those as is, just because,
Where is the bike lane here?
there is no bike.
There
lane
is
for
no
the
bike
low
lane in
concept.
the low concept.
Yeah, okay, but the next one there is. So where did it?
Right, so
It looks like it. That's where the parking was in the previous one.
it was, yeah. The low concept is really just paint. So the low concept is the low-cost way for the village to test whether a road diet works.
I know that,
Yeah.
but I'm
The
saying that.
curbs are actually, the
Right.
curbs are smaller. It's a shorter width in the high concept versus the low concept. So the curbs are squished in, which then provides that extra space for the bike lanes. that are
Okay,
shown
so
on the high. Yeah.
okay, so
Could you go back to that other picture, though? No, the other way?
This way, yeah.
That red or the orange truck looks like it's parked with a white line in front of it. Is it moving? That's what I think.
that's
There's-
that's the parking.
This is a parking lane.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at here is, after the bike lane would be a parking lane on street, And there is no parking on street on that side of the street today, so this is new. So,
Top down a little bit on the next one.
yeah. So anyway, it's on-street parking, and then it's one lane of travel going southbound. It's the bi-directional turn lane, one lane of travel going northbound, and then on-street parking facing
So
northbound.
we did lose a lane, because in the other one,
You lost a lane in both directions.
okay.
Correct.
But visually, it looks like between the two pictures, you took a full lane right there and made half of it parking. Or is that two lanes with the, right there, is that two lanes with the dotted line? Looks like it is.
No, so there's one through lane going southbound, and then that middle
That's
one
a
there.
turn lane?
Left turn lane going southbound.
And maybe aerials will be more clear. Can I ask a question about the low concept? How do you determine success?
So basically, how we would view this is, the village can, employ a number of different measures to kind of gauge success. One of them is just community appetite through surveys. So, if you started the test in spring and ran it for about a year, you could, after a month of starting this, you could send out a community survey, place it on your website, similar to what we did for this study. Send out letters to the residents that are in this area and say, how do you like this? How is traffic? Is it changing? Do you feel things are more congested? Do you feel safer crossing the street? Questions like that, and then kind of do that, two times, three times throughout that year-long process to see how opinion changes. Another thing that road diets are really good at, and some of the case studies that we looked at in the existing conditions are. They're really good at preventing speeding, and they're good at increasing safety, so reducing the amount of serious crashes as well as minor crashes as well. So two other things you could do is look at conducting a speed test, and what that does is basically you set up cameras along this corridor, and those cameras are able to measure the speed at which cars are moving. You could do that before you start the test, once during. And then you can kind of compare and see how things are changing, see if the test is actually reducing speeds. And then another thing is to look at the crash data from, let's say we look at the crash data for 2021. This year, the test is not done until 2022. So you could analyze the 2021 data, compare it to the 2022 crash data to kind of see if there, is an increase or decrease in the amount of incidents that are occurring along the roadway. So those are kind of
What about economic development? Can you cite examples of when this was done first? We then saw the businesses come because of the things you just described.
Yeah, that would be another measurement. And you would certainly not just want to interview the residents, you'd want to interview businesses and understand what's going on with the businesses. You'd want to talk with the real estate community to find out whether there's more interest. I mean, one of the issues today, I believe, is the real estate community has a certain picture of Southwest Highway that doesn't involve entrepreneurial businesses and neighborhood-serving businesses, because I don't think there's a good understanding of how high the quality is of this. So you might want to start now to find if there are some people that have been in discussions with the village about opening a new kind of business and see if they would consider this. Like I said, in the implementation, I recommended an early kind of facade improvement grants or things like that so that you make it attractive, get a couple of those businesses and find out how it works. I mean, I think you're asking absolutely the right question, and there are some very scientific measures. You'll be able to find out, did this help?
And that's where I was going with.
Yeah.
Are there other communities we can look to that have done this and experienced what we're, I'm not asking you to know today, but if we can,
Well, we can give you, there was one, we worked with West Des Moines, which is kind of an interesting community, and it seems very far away, but there's a number of communities that have made these changes, and just visually, you could tell how the community reacted. It's like Jody said, you could do pedestrian counts. See, are people starting to walk because of these amenities? And it is very conversational with the businesses, because they are private businesses, and they're probably not going to tell you exactly what their sales are, but you're going to see if they're buying new carpet and they're putting new tables out and things like that and making an investment. That's a good sign that it's working.
Now, have you seen, or I mean, when you're taking traffic from 3 or 4 lanes onto 1 lane, does it increase congestion, or our drivers going to say, you know what, I'm going a different way?
So, yes, there are multiple ways to answer the question, and there are things that would be done before the lane gets squished down. There are other things that are recommended along the entire roadway, like you saw that photo that Justin showed you that had those painted bump outs. That's an example of where that type of thing would happen. There's a lot of space on Southwest Highway where these curves are so wide that it causes people to walk across a very long cross
Probably come back to that after the president's report.
We could do that, yes. Okay. Do I have to make it a motion to skip this?
No, just defer it.
Who was the first and the second?
No, we got a first and a
I
second.
only have page 1.
No, we didn't call, we didn't
There's
call.
no motion on the.
There's no motion, right?
Okay, so we can move on to 11.
If Casey has something, well, we could have a motion to defer this to the end of the meeting. So motion, I guess, motion to
Only
postpone 10A until after the village president's report.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Amy, the first, Amy Penbrook in a second.
Second?
Second.
Second, Paul Mello. Pardon?
I can go grab it.
Okay, well, we'll get that after my report,
we'll just-
okay.
All in favor, aye, on the motion to postpone this to the.
Aye.
All right, opposed?
Okay.
At 6-0, okay, now we can go on. Do you want to have anything for general matters? Clerk?
No.
Okay, then we'll go on to number 11.
Okay, village manager's report. You know, all the trustees spoke about the great parade we had and the fireworks display. I have received quite a few calls as the mayor of this village and how happy people were with the presentations that our commission and trustee Paul Mello, who heads that commission, put together for this event. I also received a lot of complaints for illegal fireworks, okay? Probably more so than even praise. That's pretty much common. But I got a call from a woman from Palos Park, and she says to me, you know, I always have went to a suburb on the southwest side, name not to be mentioned, okay, for fireworks. She said, this year we decided we'd come to Oak Lawn. She says, I have never seen a more spectacular display of fireworks than the village of Oak Lawn has put together. And she says, we'll be there every year, so we have a big thing to heal. But you know what? There's a lot of thanks, as many trustees have mentioned, on how this happens. It doesn't just happen. Our employees are phenomenal, and I need to make a special recognition to our police and our fire department, to Jeff Seebeck, to Bill Myers from Public Works. Excellent job in traffic safety, the police and the fire. But I do want to make a special thanks to the girl who organized, or the woman who all organized this entire event, and that was Dee Adaziak. She is a phenomenal employer, and she did a wonderful job and deserves special recognition.
Here.
And that is my report.
That's how,
Bear with us.
you were down there. We just need a number now.
We just take a short break.
Depends how fast Dan is.
Super sorry.
And I redid the math.
All right,
Sure, we can take a short break.
well, we're taking it. I'm not going to end the meeting. No, we're going to recess right after that report.
That's finished off.
We'll just wait.
We drag Deanne in here to give her congratulations.
Right.
That was,
We want to pay our bills.
I know.
I can't think of anything.
I'm part of
Did
it.
all the work, because my piece got paid. Kevin,
Thank you, Dan.
second. He did everything.
I think you gave me.
So read 10A again.
Okay.
He does.
We'll move back to 10A.
Disbursement Resolution 2021-12D, approval of semi-monthly disbursements in the amount of $7,825,466.14.
A motion to pay the bills?
Motion to pay the bills.
Okay, Paul Mel, a second. Trustee Mel.
I'll second that.
Trustee Pembroke, roll call, please.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Phelan.
Yes.
Trustee Pembroke.
Yes.
Trustee Mallow.
Yes.
Trustee Stalker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Now I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
For the discussion to appointment, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. And number two, the selection of a person to fulfill the public office as defined. 12. Oh, well, that's what I got here.
No, you,
Okay, I got it,
staple
I
those
got
together,
it.
Bob.
Okay. Okay, executive session 2021-10 for the purpose of discussing, one, the approval of closed meeting minutes dated, 2021-09 dated June 8th, 2021, and pending litigation, and 3 village-owned real estate. We had a motion, a second. Do you have the names on the
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Phelan?
Yes.
Trustee Pembroke?
Yes.
Trustee Mallow?
Yes.
Trustee Stalker?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.